Yeah! Woo! Heck yeah, baby!
Rivers gives to Sproles, angling left, has room, 15, 10, 5, jackpot! He got it! He got it! He got it!
Touchdown, Antonio Gates! 112 career touchdown catches. That's the most by an NFL tight end all time.
I would have hoped that people would have figured it out. I just like to play football.
This is Score More with Garrett Sisti.
Let's go!
What is up, Score Morons? Welcome to another installment of Score More. Welcome, everybody. Glad you're back with us for another episode. Hope everybody's doing well out there. You cannot see my face. Eddie, it's too big. Do you see how big that is? I have to squeeze my head in. You can't even. Thank you. Hey, Score More it is. We're back. So today we're talking about the Chargers, of course, but nobody wants to hear a breakdown. I don't want to do a breakdown. You don't want to hear another breakdown. That game was brutal. The way it ended sucked. The defense was bad. There's a lot of bad things that happened, but we're going to talk about somebody that I want to showcase here on this show, somebody that I think deserves a little bit more praise, and then also probably somebody who doesn't deserve very much praise on the Chargers. So we'll spotlight a couple players from that game, just going on, some good things and maybe a little bit of bad things, but not the game as a whole, because that would suck. Who wants to do that? And also, really, the whole theme of the show is it could be worse. That is the theme of this show, because what happened in week 1 in the NFL was bad for a lot of teams, not just the Chargers. And the Chargers, quite honestly, weren't the worst of it. And that's a surprise to you and me, because usually they're on the wrong end of that. So we'll talk about the Chargers, talk about some spotlights, some not spotlights, and then we'll go over some NFL games, what happened in week 1, some of my favorite stuff, and then we're going to premiere a segment at the end of the show, which I'm going to call, "Hey man, what are you doing?" And I think I might make that a weekly segment, because I watch these games sometimes, or I hear commentators say things, or I watch things happen on the field, and I'm like, what is going on? And I want to showcase that. So again, just know as we get into this whole thing, it could be a lot worse. Okay? All right. Let's jump right into it. Let's talk about someone who deserves a spotlight. So this isn't really like a player of the game type situation. This is just somebody who I thought deserves a little bit more of the limelight, a little bit more of the spotlight. So while you could say a lot of different players were maybe the player of the game, even in a loss, or at least the best player on the field on Sunday, I'm going to go over somebody that I think deserves a little bit more praise. So I'm going to give a little extra love to the running back, Joshua Kelly. I thought Joshua Kelly, after watching the game a second time, was much better on the rewatch. And that's kind of how it's going to go. With the eye test early on, you're going to see us talk about it on After Hours, about players we liked and didn't like and all that. But then on the rewatch, there's some guys that end up being better than you remember, and some guys that become worse than you remember when you really break it down like I did yesterday. So right now, I want to spotlight Joshua Kelly, who was much better, and I want to spotlight a couple plays that Joshua Kelly made that I think really deserves another look. And while we're watching this, quite honestly, this could also be a focus on the offensive line. Let's keep an eye on the line, because they did very well on Sunday, albeit the very last drive of the game. But in terms of the run game, they were sensational. And there were some real positives from the run game. So while we're watching these Joshua Kelly clips and highlights from Sunday, let's also look at this offensive line and how they're blocking. So play number 1. All right, so this is in the first quarter. As you can see, it's 2nd and 4. Chargers coming back after the turnover off the fumble from Tua on their first drive. I just want you to see Joshua Kelly in action here. So as this play starts, both Gerald Everett and Stone Smart motion across, and they each pick off a guy. But Joshua Kelly sees that there's a hole right up the middle. Joshua Kelly sees that hole up the middle. It closes up real fast. He drives to the outside, follows that cavalcade to the left side. He tries to hit that hole, but Van Ginkel's right there. If he does hit that hole, that's a loss, if not a no-gainer there. But because he bounced it outside, he's able to gain extra yards. Big first down. Next up, in the second play, we got pulling guards here to seal a lane for Kelly. You got Zion Johnson and Jamari Salyer pulling left to create a wall. Pipkins is running to get the linebacker, and he turns him, and Kelly just accelerates through the hole for another first down. Excellent run here by Joshua Kelly. All right, number 3 here. Another run from the shotgun. You're going to see a lot of this in this new Kellen Moore offense, by the way. A lot of runs from the shotgun, and they were very effective on Sunday. So here, basically, they're just going to run it right over Zion Johnson's shoulder. Zion gets his helmet pushed off here. No hands to the face penalty, but he creates enough leverage here on Zach Seiler that he kind of shields that linebacker, Nelson. And because he can't get a good eye on Joshua Kelly, he's got to dive at the last minute to try to tackle him at his feet. He can't, but that's all because Joshua Kelly's got that speed through the hole. Doesn't get a first down here, but a big chunk play on second down, setting up a 3rd and short. All right, number 4. So the last run set up a 3rd and short. We got 3rd and 2 here. We've seen some cuts from Kelly. We've seen some acceleration. Now right here on 3rd and short, we get to see some power. Excellent push by the left side of the line here, especially by Rashawn Slater. Kelly can feel Bradley Chubb start to engage on Gerald Everett on the outside. He just puts his head down behind his shoulder pads on a money down, dives in there, first down. Kelly knowing exactly when to dance, when to accelerate, and when to just dive forward and get that first down. All right, number 5. Number 5 is a 2-parter. This is back-to-back plays, just like the last one. You've got Keenan Allen motioning in the backfield. Good hinge concept from Trey Pipkins and Jamari Salyer. They both swing out like a door hinge to make that path. Parham holds his block on the edge. Kelly accelerates to the B gap and falls forward for 7 yards. Now, again, he brought up a 3rd and short. 3rd and 1 here. Everyone has a hat on a hat except Jamari Salyer, who misses on Van Ginkel up the middle. Pipkins gives up some ground in the backfield, but still walls off Christian Wilkins enough. Kelly just bounces it around the block, dives forward for a key first down. This is in the 4th quarter. They needed this. Dolphins just answered back. They're up by 3. Chargers are driving. They need 7 here. Kelly does his part, and he ends up scoring later on in this drive. So last one here is a big one that I want to save for last. This is number 6. Everybody has everything buttoned up front. Donald Parham comes around on the kickout block. Gerald Everett seals the edge. Kelly finds the hole. Mike Williams holds his block on the outside for a first down. Nice job all the way around. This is everybody blocking. Everybody. This is everybody doing their part. Joshua Kelly, first down. Joshua Kelly was great on the rewatch. I'm glad I was able to focus in on him and just show you a little bit of that wiggle he showed on Sunday. Chargers have been looking for that RB2 for a while now. Joshua Kelly starting to emerge in that role, and after one game, small sample size, but man, he looks like he could be a real good tandem with Austin Eckler as kind of a 1-2 punch in the run game. And those guys blocking up front have been blocking better than they have in probably the last decade. This is a really impressive offensive line for the Chargers in game 1. So good for those guys up front. Good on Eckler and Joshua Kelly. And while we're giving our praise to the offensive line, let's look at this mammoth-sized hole that the offensive line opens up for Austin Eckler on that big gainer. Now, if Joshua Kelly's the spotlight and the guy who is part of my focus this week, the guy who is out of focus is Kenneth Murray, the linebacker. Now, I had a bunch of clips in my pocket, and I felt like I was picking on him a little bit. So let's just do 3 clips of just how bad Kenneth Murray was, because on the rewatch, somehow he was even worse. Because when he wasn't targeted, he was still out of position. So let's just talk about 3 plays where Kenneth Murray was in hell. Chargers are in a zone here. Kenneth Murray in zone. K9's got his eyes in the backfield with nobody back there but Tua. But even with an empty backfield, he stops his feet, lets the wide receiver get right behind him in his zone for a 24-yard gain. He's looking into his eyes for so long, some might consider it flirting. He's got to carry that wide receiver there. got to get a little deeper in his drop, and he's got to have better awareness. So you see Kendrick's motion to Murray at the beginning of this play. There's a play fake going to the right. Murray over pursues, ran himself completely out of this play. Running back, he's gotten coverage, slips right by him. He's wide open. 16-yard gain, 1st and goal. A lot of guys got caught up in the play fake, but Kendrick motions to Murray before the play. Murray still bites, over pursues, and the running back couldn't be more wide open. All right, last one. So at this point in the second quarter, the Dolphins know Murray is a liability. It's 4th and 7. They end up going for it. They're in kind of a maybe kick a field goal here. It's a pretty long field goal. Rather just go for it here and try to keep the drive moving. The Chargers defense haven't really been able to stop them all day, even this early in the game, late in the second quarter. But they know that Murray is a liability at this point. So on 4th down, Murray's got Durham Smythe. He doesn't do anything flashy, just runs up the field. Murray, again, is too busy looking in the backfield, sits down for no reason, lets Smythe convert the 4th down right by him, extends the drive. Miami scores later on. Kenneth Murray played 90% of the snaps on Sunday. There's an obvious hole in the second level of this defense with Kenneth Murray in there at linebacker. I think they got to go a lot more nickel and dime, get an extra DB in there. I think Kenneth Murray is much better sprinkled in certain packages rather than the bulk of the snaps on defense. He's just a liability in the run game. He has his issues in coverage, as you can see, and he just doesn't have a good feel in zone defense. So Chargers have decided that they want to roll with Murray and Kendricks. Let's see when Dion Henley gets healthier. I think that number is going to start coming down, but right now it looks like they're probably better suited to have another DB on the field rather than having Kenneth Murray as much as he was on Sunday. So look, I said at the beginning, it could be worse. That is very apparent. I'm going to show you a lot of reasons why it could be worse because there's a lot of bad things that happened on week 1 in the NFL. But I know I went from how exciting Joshua Kelly was on Sunday and this running game on offense and the offensive line to how bad Kenneth Murray was on Sunday. And I know that brings it down just a little bit, but I want you to remember, because I said at the beginning, it could be worse. So let's start from the last game that was played in week 1 on Monday night, Jets, Bills. And if you're a Jets fan or a Bills fan, you're probably not happy right now. First of all, Aaron Rodgers with the Jets, big debut, comes out on 9/11, waving that American flag down the tunnel. People talk about what a big moment that was. Gets on the field, throws one incompletion, then gets sacked because the offensive line for the Jets is terrible. Gets sacked. He's got an Achilles injury. He's probably out for the year. By the time you're listening to this, they've probably already reported that he's out for the entire season already. He's cooked. Their season now depends on Zach Wilson. It could be worse. Now for the Bills, Josh Allen has been a turnover machine. Starting from last year to this year, he's got more turnovers than starts. He threw 3 interceptions last night against a very good New York Jets defense, but all the Bills needed to do was play a nice, sound football game, let Zach Wilson be Zach Wilson, methodically push the ball down the field, get downfield and score. You know Zach Wilson's not going to be able to do much with that offense. But when you turn the ball over 3 times, that's not a winning formula, especially against this defense. Jordan Whitehead getting all 3 of them, by the way. Good on him. He earned his bonus in that first game from the interception. So that incentivized bonus that he has in his contract, he already met it. So he made himself some money by picking off Josh Allen 3 times, and they lose it on the road, and that's a divisional game against Zach Wilson. If you are a Buffalo Bills fan, you are not happy this morning. If you are a Jets fan, you are downright depressed this morning. The high hopes of having Aaron Rodgers push this team over the edge because they've got a spectacular defense, like you're going to roll it like the old 49ers days, ain't going to happen. Aaron Rodgers is out. Bills, one of the darlings of the AFC, one of those that are fighting for the crown of the AFC, one of the top teams of the AFC, 0-1. The other team that's going to be competing for a Super Bowl this year, according to a lot of people, the Jets, are 1-0, but don't have Aaron Rodgers anymore. A win is great at home, but also you got Zach Wilson at quarterback. Look at the Chiefs, another team who just won a Super Bowl, won the AFC, are going to be competing for that title again this year. They go out and lose to the Detroit Lions at home during the ring ceremony, and no wide receiver had over 50 yards receiving. And their prized acquisition, Kadarius Toney, had 1 catch for 1 yard and 3 drops. Another AFC contender, the Bengals, got stomped by the Browns in Cleveland. Joe Burrow had 82 yards on 14 of 31. Their leading receiver, Jamar Chase, had 39 yards receiving. And the Cleveland Browns put up 24 points. It got so bad that Myles Garrett was doing crossovers like Allen Iverson against the Bengals O-line with a nice little Euro step there. The Steelers, another team people had high hopes for. A lot of people bought into Kenny Pickett and this wide receiving core. They only put 7 points up at home. Kenny Pickett had 232 yards passing, and he threw it 46 times. Of those 46 times, he got picked off twice. Plus, George Pickens, while he's denying it now, was liking tweets about how he wasn't getting the ball and he wasn't being utilized right. The Steelers this year were supposed to be fighting for the AFC North crown and, at the very least, fighting for a wild card spot. That's how good people thought the Steelers were going to be this year. And they got absolutely torn apart at home against the 49ers. And this team is trending in the wrong direction. The Vikings, who made the playoffs last year and went on a run, lost to the Buccaneers at home to Baker Mayfield. Kirk Cousins turned over the ball 3 times, and Baker Mayfield only needed 242 total yards of offense to beat the Vikings in Minnesota. The Bears got absolutely steamrolled by Jordan Love and the Packers. This was supposed to be the Bears' year. They're starting to push those chips in, and they got beat down by Jordan Love, who's only had now his 2nd NFL start against Justin Fields. He had 216 yards passing. He had a touchdown and a turnover. That turnover, a pick 6. That offense looks less than explosive as people were hoping. And their big acquisition, DJ Moore, only had 25 yards on 2 total targets on Sunday. Maybe worst of all was the New York Giants, whose offensive line was historically bad on Sunday night. They lost 40-0. The Giants fumbled 5 times. Jones threw 2 interceptions, was sacked 7 times. They had a field goal blocked and returned for a touchdown. And they just paid Daniel Jones all that cash. And not only is he just not a good football player, his offensive line looks like the worst in the NFL and are on track to be one of the worst maybe of all time after week 1. So guys, it could be worse. A lot of really, really good teams lost. The Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, all those teams that were fighting for that crown of the AFC, the kind of cream of the crop, they all lost on Sunday. So if the Chargers can generate more pressure, it'll help the back end. That's not only pressure from the edges, but interior pressure. That's going to help the DBs on the backside. But that all depends on if Brandon Staley can right this defensive ship. The offense was a little shaky under Kellen Moore. That's to be expected. A brand new system, first game of NFL action. That's not an excuse, but something that you'd expect. And you got to assume that they're going to improve throughout the season. Defensively, Brandon Staley, Derek Ansley, got to get their stuff together and right this ship because this defense has been bad since last year. So all the motivation from that historic loss in Jacksonville hasn't been a motivator yet for this defense. Hopefully they can turn that around soon. And again, it could be worse. You could be this guy from the Bengals and Browns game. Oof. All right. So talked about it a little bit earlier. Want to showcase a new segment. This is a clip. Now it's not NFL, it's college football. And when I saw this clip, immediately in my head, I was like, what are you doing? So I thought this would be a good idea to have every week. I'll probably have some kind of clip air if I can find a good enough one where it's funny, but also it's like, hey man, what are you doing?
And there is Ray Davis, 51 yards on that drive alone, running and receiving. He's a guy transferring over from Vanderbilt. 9 months ago when he jumped in the portal, everybody wanted him. 11 years ago, as a foster kid, really nobody wanted him. And now here he is, found some love, found football, and he has had an amazing journey.
Hey, man, what are you doing? Why are you bringing that up? Why would you say nobody wanted him? You don't know his situation and how he got into foster care. What are you doing? That is so inappropriate. I don't know how you get on mic and say that on live television. If you want to tell his story about being a foster kid, that's one thing. But saying nobody wanted him? Hey, man, what are you doing? All right, guys. Well, that does it for this episode of Score More. Just remember, it could be worse. And also, I'll leave you with this. The Chargers are only one game back from the number 1 seed in the AFC. Okay? Think of it that way. They're not that far back. They're within reach already. Okay? Chargers are 0-1, but it could be worse. Thanks, everybody, for watching. Thanks for listening. Make sure you're all subscribed up. Make sure you're following at ScoreMorePod with Eddie over there running that account. I'm at Garrett Sisti. I will see you next Tuesday, and let's just hope the Chargers score more on Sunday.